Scholarship. Why is it important? Why Nichiren? Well, there's I have to think now. Yeah, there's a publication. I think I have it both on the threefoldlotus.com webpage as an ebook and as a print book. The doctrine of Nichiren, or Nichiren's doctrine. It's not a very big book, but it's of the books on Nichiren, like Nichiren's lifetime, and specifically about Nichiren. There's a couple of them to help you in your research and in your knowledge base. What we're going to talk about today is the word Gosho. And I'm not going to take that word apart so much as talk about what is it? What does it mean to us, right? Gosho, that's what we'll talk about today. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking and subscribing. It's a Bodhisattva act that helps us grow our Sangha, reach more people, yeah? So thank you for doing that. Just take a moment and do that, please. Those of you who are able to support this channel through your purchases of ebooks or print books or directly through Patreon and PayPal, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. You guys are amazing. All right. Gosho. The collection of writings authored or attributed to Bodhisattva Nichiren. It's important to know that. Of the hundreds of documents extant to this day and recorded, there are some that are still debated, and you know this if you go to the playlist. I have two playlists. One is Nichiren's Gosho, which is from the Zenshu, and then there's a Nichiren 2, T-O-O, so clever, a playlist that has Nichiren doctrines and writings from a different source, the Nichiren Shu propagation organization. And I did that because I like to do that, like I did with the Lotus lectures, read from different sources so that you can ascertain your own insights, right? As the biggest problem we have with everything, especially the translations into English and perhaps French and Italian and all these others, there's a concerted effort to appeal to a Western audience, which messes up the rhetoric and adds and puts in Western words that don't belong. There's a section at the end of this book that'll address some of those words or terms. And the other problem is that just the translators have their own biases they're not even aware of when they go through this stuff, right? So I've talked about it. I've talked about it with a couple of particular examples in the Gosho, the accepted oeuvre of Nichiren's writings, that don't sound like Nichiren's voice. And if you read through these letters, you'll pick it out yourself. I'm very confident you will. You know, man, this is talking about the same thing, but doesn't have that classic ring of Nichiren's sentence formations, his ideas. It works, but doesn't sound like Nichiren. That doesn't mean it has no value. It simply means that maybe probably one of the senior disciples or a much later abbot of a school or temple was interpreting something that they had heard or read of Nichiren's and felt the need to compose this Gosho, maybe from memory. Maybe they were one of his disciples who had listened to this dialogue from Nichiren, but he never wrote down. So this disciple wrote it down and said, these are the words of Nichiren, right? But for the most part, the great majority of the hundreds of writings that we have today are attributed and are not just attributed, but authenticated as written by Nichiren. And that's why most of the Gosho that we read are addressed to somebody specific. Makes it easier to authenticate. So that's the Gosho, that collection of writings, through which, I should say, we are intimately exposed to Nichiren's doctrine, the way he sees Shakyamuni Buddha's ultimate teachings of the Lotus Sutra. Not only Shakyamuni, but all the scholarship that came after him, right? Because Nichiren studied deeply the history of Buddhism. He always relies on Shakyamuni to, like, the litmus test, right? What's Nagarjuna talking about? Oh, this is what he's interpreting of Shakyamuni's teaching. This is very good. Tendai, same thing, right? Dengyo, Miaolo, people that Nichiren is constantly quoting to exemplify the scholarship, the known lineage of the teaching as cultures become more sophisticated, have greater capacity to understand. Not only capacity to understand, but look at us today. We have great capacity to understand, but we also have tremendous capacity to be distracted and influenced and on and on and on. So it works both ways, right? And as we now are in an age, the latter age, Mappo, whatever you want to call it, where the distractions and attachments are so profound and constant, all the more reason for the practice to become easier, shorter, more immediate, right? Whereas in the early days, so much development had to happen that practice required years of study. But today, Namo Myo Renge Kyo, boom. You want to know more about it? Fine, plenty to study. But you want to engage with your Buddha nature? Namo Myo Renge Kyo, you're doing it. Now, some of us, me included, we need to look under the hood. I'm not just going to take your word for it. So I want to know more about what is this Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. And you start digging. That's study. Some of us, though, and sometimes I envy you, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, that's it. Wow, I get it. Wow. And you just commit and you do it. Oh, man. Sometimes I'm a little jealous of that mind. But, we have different ways that we feel confident. And that's what this resource is about. Just to give you confidence, to take away doubt, to make it abundantly clear. I needed that, and I'm gambling many of you needed that. As the subscribership keeps growing this Sangha, I know I'm right for a large percentage of you. So here we go. Nichiren Buddhism, as you often hear it called, and I don't like that label, but Nichiren Buddhism, actually Nichiren doctrine, also known as Hokeshu, is a branch of Mahayana Buddhism based on the teachings of 13th century Japanese Buddhist monk scholar Nichiren, and is one of the Kamakura period schools, right? The shogunate, the medieval Japan. Its teachings derive from some 300 to 400 extant letters and treatises either authored by or attributed to Nichiren. Now, obviously, I'm quoting some information off the internet. I should give my source here. I'll have to update that, I guess. But be that as it may, I've already said it anyway. Nichiren's doctrine of Buddhism generally sources its basic lessons and insights from Shakyamuni's teachings of the Lotus Sutra, claiming that all sentient beings possess an internal Buddha nature, right? We know this. Capable of awakening Buddhahood by invocation in this life and in this moment. That invocation, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, right? Nichiren, who exhorted his followers, students, to emulate him in their resolve and practice, would draw supporting documentation for his statements and doctrine from the sutras of Shakyamuni as well as from historical reference, varied cultural folklore, and commentaries within the and outside of Buddhism of major schools of philosophy such as Taoist, Confucianism, and the Japanese rich history of traditions. Right? The more we read, the more we see how Nichiren pulled from many sources simply as Shakyamuni. He was emulating Shakyamuni, right? Shakyamuni spoke to the audience at hand. He wasn't like a Republican just saying the same thing over and over again until he convinced people. He addressed people with what was familiar to them, which I don't envy him, because in his day, 3,000 years ago almost, the Hindu traditions to this day, they're all over the place. Lots of superstition. And if there's one component of religion that's common, is superstition, what I often call magical thinking or mystical thinking, right? And many of the translations of sutras and Nichiren's Gosho tend to lean in that direction and talk about things being mystical. I try to expunge that language because it doesn't belong. There's nothing about Buddhism that's mystical. Although in that day, because you were addressing people who only could think that way, those words could slip in there in some form. The mistake we make today in modern Buddhism is to take those words at face value as though they are as written truth. We forget that there was a particular audience listening, yeah? So I've chosen a priori truth or priori truth. In other words, fundamental truth, not mystical. So, let's go on. There are three essential aspects to Nichiren's doctrine. I know I'm derivating from Gosho here, but we need to understand why the Gosho has value and why it is our way in to understanding Nichiren's doctrine. That's what the Gosho is about, yeah? So the first is resolve. You hear Nichiren constantly exhorting us. You got to have confidence. You got to know this is working. If you have doubt, you need to resolve your doubt. Whatever that takes. Reading Gosho, reading sutras. Get it straight in your head what you're doing. And then chant. And the flip side of that is kind of not a conundrum, but it gets in the way sometimes in our practice at some point, right? When you suddenly feel like, I'm working too hard, right? And we think, I don't know, maybe I should just relax for a while. Of course, I will tell you from my own experience and from the experience of many others, no matter how short or long you relax your practice, certain things start coming back to you, this kind of slapping you in the face. Oh, wow, that's happening. I forgot all about that being a regular feature of my life. And now here it is. Oh, that's right. I haven't practiced in a while. I guess what they said was right. Your karma comes back to hit you in the face. Well, that's karma. That's the engine of life. That's what you're made of. So how do you deal with that? Train your mind. Train your life condition into Buddha-ness. How do you do that? Chant every day, as often as you can. The essential practice, yeah? Don't be glum about it. Like I said in a recent video, savor it. Savoring your practice is a really good way of feeling confident about it. Because no matter how straight you sit up or kneel in front of your Butsudan, if you're yum, what are you doing? It's very, very weak, right? Would you be an excellent tennis player right? Like your tennis heroes, if you're into tennis at all, or pick a sport. If you just kind of showed up and, yeah, could you serve it slower for me? You're doing it too fast. I can't hit the ball. Yeah, you're not going to last on the circuit very long, are you? You have to have commitment. Know that what you're doing has value, is affecting your life. So resolve. Resolve in Nichiren's concept of Gohonzon mind. That you have that mind. That's innate. All you need to do is engage it. So engage with your invocation, right? Number 2, the chanting of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo with varying recitations of the Lotus Sutra and with the use of his mandala for, and I quote Nichiren here, single-minded focus. Let me say that again. Single-minded focus. What does that mean, single-minded focus? It doesn't mean, okay, all I'm going to chant about is a shiny red pearlescent Camaro. Oh, I want that car. No. Because the rest of that statement, single-mindedly invoking, meeting, whatever language you want to use there, the Buddha, your Buddha-ness. That's what you need to be single-minded about. Every time I get a question on what should I be thinking when I chant, you say I shouldn't be chanting for things. What should I be chanting for? What should I be thinking about? Single-mindedly to meet Buddha, to meet your Buddha, to awaken your Buddha mind. That's it. That's all. That's all. That's everything. Right? When you chant for your Buddha-ness, everything else is handled. It's taken care of. Why would you chant for things when things is exactly what Buddhism is designed to get us detached from? How insane is that? People who call themselves teachers telling you to chant for stuff, whether it's a Camaro or a relationship or better grades or a higher salary, or that's samsara. That's not enlightenment. What the hell? Which hell? It's so unbelievable. I don't know what to do about those people, those teachers, quote unquote. Number 3, the study of Nichiren's scriptural writings, called Gosho, as well as all the teachings of Buddhist scholarship, right? Nichiren never said, just read what I write. Don't look at anything else. He spent most of his time telling you where else to look. And he tells you and I, do as I do. Become your own scholar at whatever depth you need to be. You don't have to excel me. Whatever you need for your insights, that's all that's important. And like I said, for some, that's just knowing how to chant, learning Gongyo. And we've talked about the different levels of the practice, right? The 3 different: comprehensive, abbreviated, and essential. And the essential, what's the essential? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. All right, let me go on here, as if you're holding me back. Approaching his death, Nichiren Shonin established his base of operation at Mount Minobu in Japan. Not Fuji, Mount Minobu, where he trained his closest disciple monks and wrote extensively to his followers and fellow teachers. Nichiren bequeathed to his 6 senior disciples and his lay followers the mandate to widely propagate his doctrine and the practice of chanting the Daimoku in order to secure the peace and prosperity of society and the endurance of Shakyamuni's teachings for the future. And I probably should say right after that, see Kozen Rufu, because that's what that's about. In this mission, Nichiren worked over several years of his traveling ministry to develop the ultimate object for our samsaric mind to focus and lead to our internal realization of the ultimate I, through which to experience Buddha. This is the scroll, the mandala, of the teachings of the Lotus and Nichiren's doctrinal teachings, representing a transmigration device to open the Gohonzon mind for perception of the Buddha state. See also Gohonzon. Again, I keep reiterating clarity about this because there's so much misinformation about this scroll being Gohonzon. It's not a Gohonzon. Your mind is Gohonzon. Your mind of enlightenment, your single-mindedly meeting Buddha is your Gohonzon mind, the I of seeing Buddha-ness. The scroll represents Nichiren's doctrine of Shakyamuni's teachings of the Lotus Sutra. And it's a portal for our samsaric existence, our physical existence, to transmigrate from all the monkeys and chimeros and all to shut that down so that we we penetrate the Buddha mind, the Gohonzon mind, to see the Buddha I, yes? It's very straightforward when you say it correctly, and when you understand how it works. Oh, yeah, that's so obvious. No magic. There's no magic in there. It's not mystical. It's straightforward perception, training your mind, just like going to school, right? When you first see words in a book, it's gobbledygook until you learn alphabet and then words and grammar. Now you can read a book, right? Just like anything else we learn, right? All right. So, Gosho, what does it mean? Well, it means a lot, but ultimately it's just a word, and it's kind of a carry-all bag that says, here's Nichiren's enlightenment, here's Nichiren's insights. And if we use his insights, we gain our own insights. That's what the Gosho is for. Okay? That's the word for today, folks. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your practice, most of all. Oh, the next one looks really short. Well, I could talk about it forever, though. Habit energy. That's our next word or term. In the meantime, keep your practice strong. Study if you feel doubt or uncertain. Hopefully, this book that I've written will help you in that regard. And if you have comments, maybe I missed something. Maybe I missed, an aspect of a certain term. And please let me know, because I'm still in the throes. I've got a final copy coming in print to go through once again. I've already put the electronic copy on threefoldlotus.com, so you can download it. But you guys have given me such great input so far. Continue to do so. I want to make sure that this resource is for us to increase our confidence, our resolve, our knowing of the correct practice. And if there's something that's glaringly missing from what I'm talking about, I want to know, because I want to address that. That's what this whole resource is for, yeah? All right. Patrons, friends, fellow practitioners, thank you for being here. Take care of your health. I'm concerned the world today is a little bit scary. And I'm still very positive about us, but we just came through a pandemic and it's still going on. So I'm concerned. Take care of yourself. And in the meantime, and as you're taking care of yourself, be kind. Taking care of yourself is an act of kindness. And that act of kindness will bolster your kindness to others, and they will feel it. That's the way to live life, yes? All right. Stop preaching. Sometimes I can't help myself. I just so appreciate your participation here in your practice. Keep it up. I'll see you in the next one, okay? Bye-bye for now.